everyone, you're watching Cricket Next. I am Suramya Kaushik. Well, what happened at the Wankhede Stadium, Mumbai, between Australia and Afghanistan was actually spectacular. And that was made spectacular by none other than Glenn Maxwell. Those 201 runs in a total of 293. It was just maddening, unbelievable what Glenn Maxwell did. But the bigger question here is that if Australia will reach to the finals and if they'll face India, what India should do to stop Glenn Maxwell? Well, let's hear it out from Sahil Malhotra, Chetan Narula, and Taus Rizvi. Sahil, first up, you're following Indian team in this ODI World Cup 2023. We have seen spectacular performances from Indian bowlers, the way they bundled the South African team in their last match. And now everybody is saying that, okay, the next target is to stop Mad Maxwell because the way he played against Afghanistan, it was actually maddening in those cramps and in that humidity. So, do you think that it'll be a big task for the Indian bowlers to stop Maxwell?
I think right now the bigger task is first to reach to a situation where we face Glenn Maxwell because semi-final is still left. And again, on a serious note, this Australian team is looking like the team to beat right now. Whatever happened, those maddening 45 minutes early on with the bat, I think that was another. I didn't really expect Australia to bundle out that cheaply the top order and even the lower order. No one was ready to put up a fight. I think yes, Afghanistan did bowl well. There was some swing on offer, but some of the shots there and some of the approach there was completely baffling. And the way Maxwell played, I don't know if you can actually describe that knock. It was a freak knock. It was unbelievable to bits, and especially after the way he played after cramps and back spasm. I think that kind of cleared some clutter out of his head because he knew that there was only one way to bat now, and that was to go big. But even that clarity wouldn't have helped him because he was struggling physically, and it was not easy. You were facing probably one of the most varied attack in the tournament. But again, in the evening hours under lights, Wankhede, spinners, it's a coffin for spinners, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. And whatever early purchase was on offer kind of evaporated, and it was just Mad Max all the way. But again, you just can't. I can't wrap my head around that knock and can't really figure out the right words for that kind of innings because that was unbelievable. And I haven't seen Kapil Dev. I'm sure no one has seen that Kapil Dev knock 175 not out.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of good knocks in ODIs. But if there's anyone who's saying that इससे better कोई knock था, they need a reality check. इससे better knock नहीं हो सकता. जितने भी विराट्स आए, तेंदुलकर आए, गांगुलीज आए, लाराज आए, द्रविड्स आए, जो भी आया, पीटरसन आए, this was madness. This was proper madness, and I'm not sure whether we'll even see something close to this in the next 4-5 years. Yeah, till the time the World Cup or the ODIs are alive. Maddening.
Yes, true, true. It was completely maddening. And चेतन, जितनी भी लोग बातचीत कर रहे हैं मैक्सवेल की इनिंग्स के बारे में, सब लोग का यही कहना है कि perhaps this is the finest and greatest ODI innings ever played by someone. People are talking about Kapil Dev. Nobody saw how Kapil Dev batted at that time. People are talking about different innings, but all those people who watched those innings, they are also saying that nothing in comparison to what Maxwell did. You tell us, how did you feel when you saw Maxwell, doing that magic on ground?
You should tell us. You were at the ground. I think we should be asking you. I mean, how did you feel? First, you tell us.
Well, it was unimaginable, so to be true in that sense. I mean, nobody expected that from 91 for 7 to 292. There were moments, Maxwell took some 51 balls to reach to that 50 mark, then another 25 balls to reach that 100 mark. And that time as well, it was looking as if, Afghanistan might make a comeback and they just needed Maxwell's wicket to be in that game again. But Maxwell had some other plans. And if I'm not wrong, while taking that single after that 147th run, it seemed that this game's over. Afghanistan will make a comeback because Maxwell wasn't looking in a shape to be back and to stand up again and play that knock. But what happened after the 147th run, it was pure magic. I have no words to describe that, because it was just a matter of fours and sixes. It felt that he was playing with, a junior players, or he was playing with the Afghanistan bowlers, and pretty much he was enjoying it. But apart from that, Chetan, I would actually also bring in a point where I would like to congratulate Pat Cummins the way he batted. He made sure that he needs to be there and support Glenn Maxwell. He played test cricket sort of innings, but kudos to both of them. So yeah, that was my version of what I saw at the Wankhede Stadium. Now I want to know your version. What did you see while you were watching it on screen?
Well, it was quite unbelievable in a way. You can't, like you said, it's not something that you can describe what really happened. I don't think even Glenn Maxwell can describe, or Pat Cummins can describe, because SE knock, man, a lot of things need to go right. Really, I mean, didn't probably expect that Bangladesh would be so mentally disintegrated in the last 5-7 overs, and they would not be able to come up with a proper plan. Usually a player who's cramping up, not getting any footwork up, Yorkers use karo, short ball use karo. They were using spinners. I don't think if their pacers would have, Naveen Ulak bowled, but he was bowling wide outside the off stump, and
Yeah.
Maxwell was just swatting him without even using his footwork. So I think mentally Afghanistan were disintegrated. So yeah, and this was a knock for the ages. I mean, I don't know. What I do feel is, and I think you will agree with me because you were there, I don't think anybody can really truly absorb this knock. And it's just
Yep.
been more than 24 hours. And I think it's a bit of a disservice to say. Personally, I feel it's a disservice, or you are, I wouldn't say not respecting it or disrespecting it. I'm not going to say that, but I think it's a disservice to the knock that he played, when we're just simply saying, everybody was rushing to say, oh, it's the best knock ever, best knock ever. Let's be honest, nobody is in a position to say it's the best knock ever. Nobody saw Kapil Dev's 175. Only a person who saw Kapil Dev 175 and this knock can make that comparison, right? So, and you need to see all the knocks in ODI's cricket, and can you say that Sachin's 98 was any less tough because he had such great fast bowlers and everything? You look at Viv Richards, who scored 180, or Gary Kirsten ne 180 बनाए हुए हैं. You look at Saeed Anwar 190. Um, you can compare in terms of क्या situation थी, क्या opposition था, क्या score था, क्या situation था, and then you can say it is one of, what I can say personally is, it was one of the greatest knocks ever played in cricket. Not just ODI cricket, in cricket. In ODI cricket, probably it's top 2 or top 3. मेरे दिमाग में बार बार 175 आता है, और उसका एक reason है, because when I was writing my book in 2009 and 10, I interviewed a gentleman, very senior journalist, Mr. R. Mohan, and he was there in Tunbridge Wells when 175 was scored, and the pitch was really wet. It was not really bouncing too high. And Kapil Dev was a good friend of his, and he asked Mr. Mohan, and I'm just telling you the story which Mr. Mohan narrated to me, and I wrote in my book. And Mr. Mohan said ki I advised Kapil to, when in doubt, bat first, despite English conditions, despite a wet wicket. He said ki bat first karo. And remember, it was a must-win game for India. 1983 champions, right? They needed to beat Zimbabwe. It's not like Zimbabwe of today and India of today. India and Zimbabwe both were like Afghanistan in 1983, right? So India 17 for 5, and Kapil Dev is going out to bat, and he's looking back at the press box, and Mr. R. Mohan is hiding ki meko nahi dekhna Kapil ki shakal ko, because and then he goes and scores that 175. It's called the ghost knock, and the reason it's called the ghost knock is because BBC was on a strike that day, and there is no live coverage, not even radio commentary of that knock. There are some pictures, but 1983, cameramen were not really that big in profession. So is Maxwell's innings better than the ghost knock? Talking about 175 in 83. उस time पे centuries नहीं बनती थी ODI cricket में. So I think Mr. R. Mohan is, and I'm sure, I hope he's been watching last night's innings. I have a mind to call him up and ask him. I think he's the only one who can tell us which is the better innings. So Maxwell's was one of the greatest cricket knocks ever. But I think it's a disservice to just, बहुत easy है बोलना कि best ever. Let's not do that. That's my personal opinion. Greatest, one of the greatest, that's for sure. And I'm not talking ODI cricket, in all cricket. You know,
Hmm.
that was my
Well,
point.
I believe that people are, saying that this knock is one of the greatest knocks, or this is the greatest knock in ODIs. Perhaps they never watched something of this magnanimity. They never watched something of this stature. So people are saying from their point of views, and I very well agree to yours as well, Chetan. The real comparison can be made by only the person who must have seen that Kapil Dev's knock. But the situation in which Maxwell scored, I
Yeah.
mean, it was unbelievable. 91 for 7,000, you were there. And I remember that how you were saying that, that it might be a heartbreak. It can turn into a heartbreak. Well, it turned into a heartbreak, but I think we need to tell it to Chetan, Sahil, and all the others who are watching. If you see the crowd in Wankhede yesterday, it was 80% towards Afghanistan. They were all cheering for Afghanistan. And around 500,000 people were from Afghanistan. Rest all were Indian fans, and they were cheering for Afghanistan. But the moment they saw Maxwell doing magic, they started chanting Maxwell, Maxwell. When Maxwell laid down on the ground, there were just chants of Maxwell, Maxwell. But I have never heard that was. We have seen so many matches in which people start cheering for the players, but from that 150 mark to that 200 mark, even crowd was pretty silent. They were not knowing what's happening, so they were just watching it in silence. How would you describe it, Taos?
I think, I mean, we still have that hangover, right, Surya? अभी
Yeah.
तो हम उससे बाहर नहीं निकले because that knock was so impactful यार. The heartbreak मैं चिढ़ा रहा था actually. That was the thing. मैं रम्या को चिढ़ा. She was backing Afghanistan. She was in awe of Zadran the way he played that knock against Australia. I was teasing Ramya. मतलब what if it's a heartbreak? क्या होगा? And suddenly things changed. यार. Sahil, you should have been there. What a historical knock. मजा आ गया. I mean, the crowd erupted. They were simply enjoying. I mean, चाहे Mumbai fans क्रिकेट अच्छा है क्रिकेट अच्छा हो उनको क्या चाहिए बट दिस वाज समथिंग स्पेशल यार दिस वाज आई एंड आई एग्री विद चेतन सो मैं see I believe every you can't compare knocks yaar every knock is different every situation is different pitches are different attacks are different Afghanistan कुछ moment but after celebrating the I mean getting them down to 7 wickets they were like happy hunky dory everything was cool I think there were early celebrations फिर उसके बाद क्या हुआ धीरे धीरे जब वो अनफोल्ड होने लगी स्टोरी एग्जैक्टली कि क्या हो रहा है मैड मैक्स इज गेटिंग मैडर एंड मैडस वो आई मीन दे सकम देमसेल्व्स टू दे कंप्लीटली दे पूरा उन्होंने अपने आप को बिछा दिया इनके सामने मैक्सवेल के सामने दे हैड नो क्लू स्पिनर्स राशिद खान हैड नो क्लू सीधा सीधा बॉल जा रहा है ही इज ट्राइंग टू पुट द ब्रेक्स बट नहीं मिल रहा नूर खान वाज कंप्लीटली clueless he's still a youngster मुजीब that catch you should not have dropped that catch मुजीब अगर वो catch पकड़ लेते simple catch at short fine leg the game would have been completely different Afghanistan would have been eyeing that final semi-final berth that catch drop catch completely changed the game तो उसके बाद पूरा गेम जब चेंज हुआ है तो the man took over Afghanistan attack I mean he teared it apart completely और ऐसा I think ये बहुत rare वानखेड़े स्टेडियम में आप मुंबई स्कूल ऑफ बैटिंग बात करते हैं प्लेइंग इट इन द वी बट दिस वाज कंप्लीटली ऑपोजिट 360 डिग्री आपको देखने मिल रहा है आपको स्वीप झाड़ू देखने मिल रहा है आपको पता नहीं बलता रिवर्स स्वीप विकेट कीपर के बाजू से जा रहा है आई मीन दैट्स नॉट हाउ यू प्ले क्रिकेट that's not how you play cricket but then that's Glenn Maxwell for you completely and I would like to commend you रम्या आपने एक एक पॉइंट याद रखा है 40s 50s 100s वो सब पॉइंट आपके दिमाग में मतलब कितना इम्पैक्टफुल नॉक रहा होगा कितना एंटरटेनिंग फॉर ईच एंड एवरी वन ऑफ अस इन द स्टेडियम एज वेल एज पीपल वाचिंग इन द टीवी अमेजिंग
Yeah, so now whenever you get the time to open social media, it's only about Maxwell. Nothing else is trending on social media. Well, Sahil, मैंने ये शुरुआत करी थी इस लाइव सेशन की कि किस तरह से बॉलर्स इंडियन बॉलर्स टैकल करेंगे मैक्सवेल को. You clearly mentioned this long way to go. अभी ऑस्ट्रेलिया साउथ अफ्रीका का सेमीफाइनल होगा. So let's start up from there only because we don't know who's going to be the fourth place team in this World Cup. There's still a toss up between New Zealand and Pakistan. Afghanistan are also in contention for that fourth place. But let's talk about South Africa and Australia, because that's one semi final which is now fixed. How these two teams should play each other. South Africa, they were defeated terribly by Team India. Australia, they have won it magically against Afghanistan. So, how these two teams should approach things to reach to the finals of this mega tournament?
I think first thing was South Africa need to get that defeat against India out of their head, because that was some blow that would have deflated their confidence. No matter how much they say that it was the last couple of league games they lost, but no, that was not the case. That shouldn't be the case. That was a deflating blow, and no one expected South Africa to surrender the way they did. Credit to Indian bowlers there, but I think first letting India score those many runs, I think they clearly lacked support for Keshav Maharaj during those middle overs. We expected Shamsi to do well, and Tsunami, when it comes to Australia, South Africa, I think a lot will be dictated by the venue where they play. If you play at Mumbai, it's going to be a completely different ball game, because both teams batters would enjoy batting there, and South Africa in particular would enjoy batting more there at Wankhede. But if at all the match is played in Kolkata at the Eden Gardens, where we saw the way the pitch was behaving in the middle overs, I think it could be anybody's game there, and Australia could have that slight edge there. Zampa, again, lot of work will be on his shoulders, but again, that's one wicket where you could expect Australia to have slight edge over South Africa, and that is not the pitch where you could see Maxwell fireworks of Wankhede, because again, it was a difficult wicket to bat on. It was assisting slower bowlers in the first half of the game. Not much turn in the second half, but again, the grip was there, the bounce was slightly even, but both venues are completely different. So it will depend and largely will be dictated by the place where they play the match. And if it's a Wankhede game, it's going to be a run feast for sure. Both teams, quality sides, packed with batters, and Steve Smith likely to recover from vertigo before the semi-final. I think Australia right now, I wouldn't use the word peaking, because they've been peaking in the last 3-4 games now. This is what, the sixth game on the
Yeah,
bounce which they've won. I think they're looking
yeah,
threatening now. Peaking is not the right
yeah.
word. They're looking threatening now, and the confidence is back in the side. In the first three games where they looked kind of, I don't know, didn't look like the world champions of the old, looked slightly disinterested. The shoulders were dropping after first 10-12 overs. Even that game against India, what they had India 2 for 3, Virat Kohli was nearly out in next 3-4 overs. But after that, when both the batters kind of dropped anchor and looked to play the situation and bat deep, I think that is where Australia were not able to make that comeback. Thoda slightly, I think I found the fire missing, but maybe now, because they have the full strength side back, Travis Head is back up the order. They could well have to make that call between Steve Smith and Manas Labuschagne in the middle order, so that they continue playing the likes of Cameron Green and Marcus Stoinis to keep all bases covered. This is looking a very threatening side, and again, this is the only worry which I have right now for the Indian cricket team, because they are going to take some doing to be beating them. They're a quality side all round, but for Australia and South Africa, venue will play a big role. Big role.
No, that's absolutely right, Sahil, because up till now, we don't know which team will finish on number four. So that's why the venues haven't been selected. But most likely, that if Pakistan will finish on number four, then India Pakistan will be played in Kolkata, and Australia and South Africa in Mumbai. And if New Zealand will finish on number four, then India, New Zealand in Mumbai, and South Africa, Australia in Kolkata. Well, Afghanistan are still in race. That's what Jonathan Trott also believed. He said that we are still in the race. We would like to win the match against South Africa, but it seems that it'll be a toss up between New Zealand and Pakistan, most likely. Now, Chetan, we have a question for you from Harsh Purohit. He's asking you what would be the biggest reason that might stop India from winning the title?
मरवाओगे यार. No, I think at some point India will have to. There are a couple of things I think I can think of. First of all, if the semi-final आज की डेट में अगर हम बात करें तो New Zealand is in pole position, getting into the semi-final. So if it's India and New Zealand, then I think they'll have to watch out. The toss is going to be a massive factor at the Wankhede semi-final. Second innings में what we saw yesterday, I think first 20 overs that you need to really cater to, and I think वो हमने पिछले matches में भी देखा है कि a lot of damage is done in those first 20 overs. New Zealand have great bowlers to do a lot of damage in those 20 overs. So I think that is one. And at some point, whoever you play in the semi-final, at some point, I think Australia, ये मैं tweet भी कर चुका हूँ और ये मैं पिछले episode में भी कह चुका हूँ कि at some point you have to beat this Australian side. This is not the Australian side you met in Chennai. ये वो team
Yep.
नहीं है. You know, something changed in Lucknow with that in that rain break after they lost 2 games.
Yeah.
I think Lucknow ही था ना, Sri Lanka के against. Yeah, I think so. They played 2 games in Lucknow. So something changed, and इस knock के बाद तो there is immense belief in the Australian dressing room, or there would be, that they can achieve the impossible. And when a team believes that they can achieve the impossible, right now achieving impossible is beating India in this World Cup. So I think Ahmedabad would be a great final between India and Australia. I'm looking forward to an India-Australia final. 2003 का बदला देना है. But at the same time, I think this Australia team is not the Chennai team. I think this Australia team will be very, very difficult to beat. But first, that Wankhede semi-final. That's a huge stumbling block. Let me also say that Eden Garden semi-final is not going to be easy. If it's India-Pakistan. Because if you Eden ki pitch dekho, that's also a bad first pitch for a different variety of reasons. Wankhede mein, it's humidity, movement, wind, dew, lights. Not so much the pitch, because it flattens out after 20 overs once the ball goes soft. But in Kolkata, chasing is just not possible given the pitches that they are making. You know, the only chase we saw was Bangladesh-Pakistan, and I would not count that because Bangladesh is not really a great side at the moment. So I don't know if they make the kind of pitch they made in India, South Africa. Us pitch pe chase karna bahut tough hai, and Pakistan bats first there. Although I still believe India-Pakistan would be a no contest in the semi-final. So yeah, to answer your question, 2 points. That semi-final, if it's against New Zealand, and then at some point, India-Australia, you have to beat Australia at some point again,
Yeah.
and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and at this point of time, Australia are looking unbeatable. Taus, how would you sum up Australian innings that happened against Afghanistan? And now you have seen that, how they have managed to pull off victories. They started off the tournament on a downhill side. They didn't win against India and South Africa. But after that, as Chetan rightly mentioned, something changed in Lucknow. And post that, it seems that this team is unbeatable. What are the strengths that you are looking at in the Australian side?
It's not unbeatable. Yeah, it's beatable. I mean, yesterday Afghanistan took 7 wickets of Australia easily. I mean, yeah, conditions helped, pitch helped, and these guys were good till 7 wickets. After that, Glenn Maxwell came out with an extraordinary magical innings, and this is very rare. You won't get to see this kind of innings against an India. Yeah. India is too strong a side, too better a bowling lineup, too accurate. If you see, I mean, if you compare it to Afghanistan, and we have variety as well. I mean, and then we have Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Shami, and Mohammad Siraj in form. So I mean, this is something like very. It won't happen again against India. And he was playing against I mean, he was playing as if he's playing school kids, and we are not school kids. We are quite we are college kids. We are boys, men out there who will just play with Australian batters. But then, see, that's the most important part. यहाँ पर, I mean, you have to take some kind of, borrow some kind of knowledge from Afghanistan, what exactly they did against these guys, against Australia. I mean, they forced them to play false shots. False shots in the sense of how you saw David Warner was playing. He was completely bamboozled by that fast bowler Azmat. So you have to be accurate, which we have been, and I think. But Australia, I said in the during the innings break that if you take out that David Warner, because he's the kind of form he is in, if you take out that guy, the match will be in Afghanistan hands. This was a completely mad match. But then that is where you have to target Aussies. This guy was looking good. Mitchell Marsh was looking good. But their team depends on David Warner. Then some magical innings by Mad Max. So यहाँ पर देखिए strength तो मुझे कुछ खास दिख रही नहीं है यहाँ पर ऑस्ट्रेलिया की. They are still vulnerable. Yeah, they have multiple time champion. They know how to win. Then they have all the experience. They will be back at. But then when you compare it to India, somebody who has been in terrific form, somebody who has a very well good balanced bowling lineup as well as batting, somebody who has a Rohit Sharma and a Virat Kohli in that kind of form which you see like which you're seeing after a long time, and then you're playing at India. We know the home conditions as well. So that way, I mean, Australia will not be a great challenge. Yeah, they'll come with their legacy, they'll come with their history, they'll come with the current form, maybe David Warner or a Mad Max, but then you will see कि they are not been as effective. I mean, अफगानिस्तान ने उनको धूल चटा दी थी एक टाइम पे कल ही. तो मुझे लगता है उनके माइंड पे चलेगा कि उनका मिडिल ऑर्डर, उनका टॉप ऑर्डर, वो एक वल्नरेबल एस्पेक्ट है जो इंडिया टारगेट करने की कोशिश करेगा. उसके बाद you have the other guys. Maxwell, I don't think so. He'll produce another gem of anyway. कह दिया कि this is the rarest of the rare knocks. तो ये rare ही
Yeah.
रह जाएगा. Yeah, rare ही रहेगा.
Well, I love the positivity that you bring in, Taos. I remember one of our live shows where you said before the India South Africa match, Taos was the one to say, "अरे क्या Quinton de Kock, क्या Klassen, अपने bowlers जब आएंगे तो कोई नहीं बचेगा." That exactly happened in the match, and I also remember New Zealand के match से पहले भी Taos ने ये बोला था, "अरे पहले bowlers को आने तो दो, शमी आएगा wicket लेके जाएगा." Same thing happened. So I really love the positivity that you are bringing in, Taos. And yes, you are right there. Glenn Maxwell kind of innings don't happen each and every day. It takes a special day to happen, and that special day was perhaps yesterday when it happened against Afghanistan. But Sahil, this one very interesting question that I am seeing these days: what will be India's playing 11 in the semis and finals? Because Hardik Pandya has been ruled out of the tournament. So will Team India be going ahead with the same 11 that they've been going as till now?
There's no reason to for you to change the side. I don't see any reason for them to change the side. I think they should continue with the same playing 11 until and unless they play in Kolkata and Kolkata dishes out like an absolute rank turner. Even then, Ashwin playing is kind of very unlikely for me because you don't want to stop this trioka of Shami, Siraj, and Jasprit Bumrah because they've been bowling well in pairs. It's not just that they're bowling individually well; they're complementing each other really well. And even the Sri Lanka game, if I'm not wrong, if it was no, even the South Africa game, if it was Jasprit Bumrah who was bottling one end up and not amongst the wickets, but there was a bowler from the other end. Siraj drew first blood, got Decock. Then Mohammad Shami picked those wickets. Then Jadeja doing his magic when he was introduced earlier. I think the earliest in the tournament so far. So they've been bowling well together. I think the way they're complementing each other right now, you wouldn't want to kind of upset that rhythm because the team is looking good. And for India to, I was just thinking loud when Taos was speaking. For India to lose any game right now, it's just not is important for the other team to play well, which again New Zealand did. I think Dharmshala was probably one of the most competitive game India have featured in the tournament so far. But even for that result to go in the opposition's favor, India need to have a really bad day, a really off day in
Yeah.
the field. So it has to be a combination of two things. First, the opposition has to do well, then India has to do like really badly because that hasn't happened in the tournament so far. And that is why I consider the New Zealand game was the biggest test of our character because it was after that Pune game where Hardik was injured and we were going in for five specialist bowlers for the first time. Batting depth wasn't there, and then we were chasing something in excess of 274. I think 275 we were chasing, and Daryl Mitchell
Yeah.
and Rachin. I think they played a phenomenal knock there. Yes, Daryl
Yep.
kind of couldn't add those 30-40 runs, which could have been the difference in the end. But that was proper batting by New Zealand, and they counter attacked Kuldeep ब्यूटिफुली आई थिंक डैरिल मिशेल पहले अपनी 40-50 रन के अंदर तीन छक्का कुलदीप को सामने मारा था सो दे वर लुकिंग
Yeah.
वेरी गुड एंड आई थिंक दैट इज व्हाई आई स्टिल होल्ड दैट गेम which was the only game where India were challenged in the tournament so far. Yes, Australia's 2 for 3 was there, but I think after that New Zealand game where India kind of just everyone rallied around themselves. They had so India weren't getting the partnerships going too against New Zealand. We kept losing wickets at regular interval, but then Virat stayed there and Jadeja with him together. In the end, I think it was a big positive for us to win there. So again, I'll just conclude with that. For India to kind of lose a game right now, first opposition has to play like really well, and then India has to like really f up for them to kind of not go to the next stage.
Yeah, for now they are invincible. They are unbeatable in the tournament and in semis and finals. Each and every cricket fan and cricket lovers, they're just praying and they're just hopeful that India win this title. But today we were talking about. Glenn Maxwell. Well, it seems that Maxwell is still not fully satisfied with his innings. Perhaps the way he crammed, he limbed. So that was Maxwell for you. Like, yes, you can read it that it would have been nice if it was a chanceless knock, but I had my chances. Well, there were two dropped catches, so might be Glenn Maxwell is referring to those, and rest is history. Whatever he did against Afghanistan will be remembered for n number of years to come. But his kudos to Glenn Maxwell. He pulled off a great victory for the Australian side. But we were talking about India's playing 11, and Sahil Malhotra rightly mentioned that there is no need of tinkering with India's playing 11 because it's winning them games. Well, we will get back to you with all the other updates and details in the ongoing ODI World Cup. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining with me in this live session. Let's all enjoy World Cup.
Thank you.